Have you ever looked at two people living the same 24 hours? Yet, one seems lighter and freer while the other feels tense and trapped. Have you ever wondered why you did not do anything obviously wrong? Yet your heart still feels tired and restless as if you are carrying an invisible weight. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about something that sounds simple but can change the way you experience everything. You think you are just getting through daily life, paying bills, handling relationships, making plans, surviving stress. But at the same time, whether you realize it or not, you are cultivating your destiny. You are shaping your inner world, and your inner world shapes how the outer world lands on you. The way your mind looks at life becomes the way life feels to you. The way you respond becomes the road you end up walking. This is cause and effect in its most practical form. Here are the two ideas I want you to hold while we walk through this long talk together. First, a lot of suffering is not created by the event itself, but by the way the mind clings, resists, compares, and keeps chasing. Second, your fate is not only what happens to you. Your fate is what you become in response to what happened. When you cultivate virtue, clarity, patience, and compassion, your life becomes steadier. When you cultivate resentment, panic, and constant craving, your life becomes heavy even when nothing terrible is happening. To make this real, I want to guide you through 9 simple metaphors. They are not fancy. They are not meant to sound poetic for the sake of sounding poetic. They are meant to be useful, like tools you can reach for when your mind is spinning. When you truly understand them, you stop treating life like a punishment and start treating it like practice. And when your life becomes practice, destiny begins to turn. Let us start with the one that hits the heart immediately. Life is like a theater. Think about how many times you have been hurt because you took a scene too seriously. Someone said something sharp. Someone looked at you a certain way. Someone did not include you. Someone praised someone else and ignored you. That moment your mind writes a story. The story says, I am disrespected. I am not valued. I am being targeted. I am losing. And then the scene repeats in your head like a loop, as if you are forced to watch it again and again. But what if you could step back just 1 inch and remember it is a scene? It is a moment. It is not your entire identity. It is not your whole life. It is not the final verdict on your worth. When you watch a theater performance, you can cry, you can laugh, you can feel moved, but you also know something important. The actors are acting. The stage is a stage. The story is not your life. Because you know that, your emotions can flow without destroying you. In daily life, you forget that. You treat every expression on someone's face as proof. You treat every disagreement as a threat. You treat every delay as rejection. You treat every mistake as evidence that you are failing. You become trapped inside the role you are playing. So the first practice is to remember you are not only an actor. You are also the audience. You can act, and you can observe yourself acting. That observation is awareness. That awareness is the beginning of awakening. Here is a story. A woman works in an office. She is competent. She cares. She tries to help her team. One day she presents an idea in a meeting. People nod. Then the meeting moves on. 10 minutes later, another person repeats the same idea with slightly different words. And suddenly everyone praises it. The manager says, brilliant. That is exactly what we need. People smile at that person. The woman feels heat rush to her face. Her throat tightens. A voice inside her says this is unfair. Another voice says you are invisible. Another voice says you should say something right now. She does not say anything. She sits there, smiling politely, but inside she is shaking. That night she replays the meeting. She imagines what she should have said. She imagines exposing the coworker. She imagines the manager apologizing. She imagines a future where she is always overlooked. Her mood collapses. She cannot sleep. She starts treating work She starts becoming cold toward the coworker. She begins speaking with bitterness at home. Her partner asks what is wrong and she says nothing. But her tone becomes sharp. She begins losing her softness. And soon, she is not only upset about a meeting, she is carrying the meeting like a stone in her chest. Now notice what happened. The event was a scene. A frustrating scene. Yes, but it was still a scene. The suffering grew because the mind turned the scene into a permanent identity story. So what would it look like to treat it like theater? She could still act. She could still follow up with the manager. She could document her contributions. She could set boundaries. She could adjust her strategy. That is wise action. But she could also step back internally and say, this is a scene on the stage of my life. I will not let one scene become my whole story. When you can do that, you protect your virtue. You protect your clarity. You stop leaking energy into revenge fantasies. You stop losing sleep over something that already ended. This is not weakness. This is mastery. Life is like grass. Grass grows quietly. Grass bends in the wind. Grass is stepped on and it rises again. Grass does not panic because the sun is hot today. Grass does not collapse because the rain is heavy. Grass simply keeps growing. People forget this. People want life to be stable like a stone. They want every day to feel secure, predictable, and easy. But life is closer to grass. It is always changing. It is always responding. It is always bending. If you insist on being a stone, you will break. If you learn to be like grass, you will endure. Here is what this metaphor teaches. Resilience is not hardening. Resilience is flexibility. It is the ability to adapt without losing your integrity. A man loses his job. His mind immediately says, I am finished. I am humiliated. I am behind. People will look down on me. He becomes angry, ashamed, and anxious. He starts blaming his partner, his boss, the economy, his own past choices. He cannot focus. He cannot think clearly. He begins making desperate moves, sending frantic messages, taking any offer without discernment. He is not only dealing with job loss, he is dealing with the mind it cannot bend. Now imagine he learns to be like grass. He acknowledges pain. He allows disappointment. But he does not build a permanent identity on this temporary event. He says, I am in a season of change. I will bend, not break. I will rest, reflect, and then move. When you become flexible, you regain power. You can learn. You can pivot. You can ask for help. You can take a lower step for a moment without believing you are worthless. You can keep your dignity while adapting. This is an important point in cultivation. A lot of people lose virtue because they cannot accept impermanence. They panic. Panic makes them harsh. Panic makes them selfish. Panic makes them lie. Panic makes them betray their own values. Then later they say life is unlucky. But often, what they call unlucky is the consequence of panic-driven choices. Grass teaches you to move with life without losing yourself. Life is like chess. Chess is not won by emotion. Chess is won by seeing the board. It is won by patience. It is won by understanding that every move has consequences. Not only now but later. Many people live as if life is only one move. They react to the current feeling. They say the current words. They spend the current money. They chase the current validation. They do not see the board. They do not see the next 3 moves. Then they are shocked when consequences arrive. Chess teaches you the power of calm strategy. Think about relationships. If you speak harshly in the heat of the moment, the words do not vanish. They land. They shape trust. They shape memory. They shape how safe someone feels with you. That is a move on the board. Later, when you want closeness, you might find distance. Not because destiny hates you, but because your move created the position. Think about health. If you skip rest, ignore your body, and keep pushing, it might feel like you are winning today. But later, the board changes. Energy drops. Illness appears. Burnout arrives. That was also a move. Think about money. If you spend to soothe anxiety, you feel relief for 1 hour. But later, the board changes. Debt appears. Stress grows. That was also a move. So the practice is to pause and see the board. A young woman is tempted to reply to a rude message with something even sharper. Her fingers are ready. Her ego is burning. Then she remembers chess. She asks, what is the move I am making? If I reply with heat, what happens next? The argument escalates. The relationship cracks. My mind stays restless. If I reply with calm, what happens next? Maybe the other person calms down. Maybe they reveal their true character. Maybe I keep my dignity. Maybe I keep my peace. She chooses calm. She sets a boundary. She says, I will discuss this when we can speak respectfully. Then she steps away. That single choice is a chess move that protects her future. Chess also teaches you something about karma. Karma is often described as cause and effect. In chess, you do not need mystical belief to see cause and effect. A careless move creates vulnerability. A wise move creates stability. Life is similar. The mind makes a move every time you choose how to respond. Life is like a boat. A boat moves on water. Water changes. Sometimes the water is calm. Sometimes waves rise. Sometimes storms arrive. You cannot control the ocean, but you can learn how to steer. You can learn balance. You can learn when to rest. You can learn when to row harder and when to wait. Many people waste energy trying to control the ocean. They say life should not be like this. People should not be like this. My family should not be like this. My past should not be like this. The economy should not be like this. They fight reality. Fighting reality is like rowing against a tide while blaming the sea. It creates exhaustion. The boat metaphor teaches acceptance with skill. Acceptance says the wave is here. Skill says I will adjust my balance. Acceptance says the storm is here. Skill says I will secure what matters and avoid reckless moves. Acceptance says the river turns. Skill says I will steer with awareness. In spiritual practice, this is equanimity, not numbness, not passivity. Equanimity is steadiness. It is the ability to remain present during change. A man is caring for an elderly parent. Some days the parent is kind. Some days the parent is irritable. The man feels guilty when he gets tired. He feels resentful when the parent complains. He feels shame for resenting. His heart becomes a storm. Now imagine he uses the boat metaphor. He says caregiving is an ocean. I cannot control every wave. I can steer my boat by caring for my mind. I can rest when I can. I can ask for help. I can speak gently. I can set boundaries. I can remember compassion. Then he stops blaming himself for waves. He focuses on steering. This is where compassion becomes practical. Compassion does not remove hardship. Compassion changes how you carry hardship. It keeps your heart from turning bitter. Life is like wine. Wine has stages. It begins raw. It ferments. It matures. If you rush it, it tastes harsh. If you let it settle, it gains depth. People often rush their life. They want immediate results. They want to be healed now, respected now, successful now, understood now. When life does not deliver instantly, they become frustrated. They force. They chase. They compare. They lose patience and then lose virtue. Wine teaches timing. Wine teaches that some transformations require time and consistency. Your character is like wine. You do not become wise because you watched one video. You become wise because you practiced 1,000 small choices. You do not become calm because you heard about calm. You become calm because you trained attention, trained breath, trained speech, trained patience. This is why daily practice matters. A woman decides she wants a better life. She wants less anxiety. She wants more confidence. She wants healthier relationships. She tries for a week. She meditates a few times. She eats better. She sleeps earlier. Then something stressful happens. She falls back into old habits. She says it does not work. But when does not mature in a week? So she returns. She practices again. Slowly her nervous system changes. Slowly her mind stops jumping at every trigger. Slowly she gains more space between feeling and reaction. That space is freedom. That space is the place where destiny changes. Wine also teaches humility. When you are young in practice, you might think you already understand. But deep maturity is quiet. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes returning again and again. Life is like tea. Tea is simple. Water and leaves. Yet the taste changes depending on temperature and attention. If water is too hot, it becomes bitter. If steeped too long, it becomes harsh. If steeped with care, it becomes fragrant. Your daily life is like tea. Small habits, small words, small choices. The taste of your day depends on how you handle the small things. Many people believe big events decide life, but most suffering comes from small daily friction. A tone of voice, a messy room, a late reply, a small disappointment, a minor inconvenience. The mind reacts as if it is always under attack. Then the whole day tastes bitter. Tea teaches gentleness and precision. If you want a life that tastes better, do not only wait for big luck. Adjust your daily temperature. Adjust your timing. Adjust your attention. Wake up and take 3 slow breaths before your phone. That changes the temperature. Speak one gentle sentence when you want to snap. That changes the temperature. Eat slowly once a day. That changes the temperature. Walk for 10 minutes without rushing. That changes the temperature. Forgive one small mistake. That changes the temperature. These are small acts, but they shape the taste of your life. Tea also teaches contentment. You can enjoy a simple cup. You do not always need something extravagant. Contentment is not settling for less. Contentment is seeing enoughness in the present. When you cultivate contentment, craving loosens. When craving loosens, anxiety loosens. When anxiety loosens, you become free. Life is like a mirror. A mirror reflects. If you smile, it shows a smile. If you frown, it shows a frown. The mirror is not judging you. It is reflecting you. In life, the world often behaves like a mirror. Not perfectly, not in a simplistic way, but more than you might admit. When your heart is tense, you see threats. When your heart is soft, you see possibilities. When your mind is suspicious, you interpret neutral actions as hostile. When your mind is open, you interpret the same actions with curiosity. This is why two people can live the same event and have different experiences. The mirror is different because the inner state is different. A man walks into a room. He believes people do not like him. He carries that belief like a smell. He looks at faces and searches for disapproval. He notices one person not smiling, and he thinks there it is. He withdraws. He becomes awkward. People feel his tension and become cautious. Then he says, "See, they do not like me." The mirror reflected his fear. Another man walks into the same room with a different inner state. He assumes goodwill. He smiles. He listens. He asks questions. People feel safe and respond warmly. He leaves feeling connected. The mirror reflected his openness. Now here is where practice becomes crucial. If you do not like what you see in the mirror of life, do not only blame the mirror. Gently investigate the expression you are carrying. Are you carrying resentment? Are you carrying anxiety? Are you carrying pride? Are you carrying the need to win? Are you carrying the need to be praised? This is not self-blame. This is self-awareness. Awareness is power. The mirror metaphor also teaches responsibility. If you constantly receive conflict, ask what energy you bring. Not to shame yourself, but to learn. If you constantly feel exhausted, ask where you leak energy. If you constantly feel unlucky, ask where you keep planting seeds of impatience and comparison. Life is like a song. A song has rhythm. A song has highs and lows. A song has pauses. A song has melodies that return. If you expect a song to be only one note, you will be disappointed. If you accept the movement, you can enjoy it. People often suffer because they demand one emotion. They demand constant happiness. They demand constant certainty. They demand constant control. But life is a song. It moves. Some days are bright. Some days are quiet. Some days are heavy. Some days are uncertain. That does not mean you are cursed. It means you are alive. The song metaphor teaches emotional maturity. You can feel sadness without believing life is ruined. You can feel joy without clinging. You can feel uncertainty without collapsing. You can let emotions pass like music passing through a room. A woman goes through a breakup. She thinks, if I still feel pain, I must be weak. She tries to force happiness. She distracts. She denies. But the song does not allow denial. The pain returns stronger. Then she learns to treat emotion like music. She says sadness is a note. It will pass through. I can breathe and let it play without making it my identity. She cries. She rests. She reaches out to friends. She learns. Slowly the song changes. A new melody arrives. She did not force it. She allowed it. This is a major point in cultivation. When you stop fighting your own feelings, you stop creating extra suffering. You still feel pain, but you do not add panic on top of pain. You do not add self-hate on top of sadness. You allow the song to move. Life is like walking a road. A road is taken step by step. You do not arrive by thinking. You arrive by walking. Sometimes the road is smooth. Sometimes it is rocky. Sometimes it forks. Sometimes you get lost and return. This metaphor might be the most practical of all, because it reminds you that your fate is built by steps, not by dramatic moments, not by fantasies. Steps. If you want a better destiny, ask what step you are taking today, not what you hope will happen one day. A step can be an apology you have avoided. A step can be a boundary you need to set. A step can be a habit you need to break. A step can be a skill you need to learn. A step can be rest. A step can be asking for help. A step can be forgiving yourself. When you take the right step repeatedly, you end up in a different place. Now, we have walked through the 9 metaphors, but I do not want them to remain concepts. I want them to become lived tools. So I am going to tell a longer story that ties them together. The kind of story that feels like life. Messy and ordinary and profound. Imagine a person named Daniel. Daniel is not a villain. Daniel is not lazy. Daniel is not cruel. Daniel is simply tired. He wakes up each day and does what he is supposed to do. He works. He handles responsibilities. He tries to be a good partner, a good child to his parents, a decent friend. But something inside him is always restless. Even when nothing is wrong, he feels something like a tight rope in his chest. He often thinks, why am I like this? Other people seem fine. Why do I always feel behind? One day Daniel hears a sentence that bothers him. You are not just living. You are cultivating your destiny. He laughs at first. It sounds dramatic, but the sentence stays. He starts noticing how his mind behaves. He notices that the moment he wakes up, he grabs his phone. He scrolls. He sees someone traveling. He feels inferior. He sees someone buying something. He feels behind. He sees news. He feels anxious. The day has not even begun. And his mind is already running. That day at work, someone gives him feedback. It is not even harsh, but his ego hears it as criticism. His chest tightens. He smiles, but inside he feels attacked. He spends hours replaying the sentence. He becomes less productive. He goes home tired, not because the work was hard, but because his mind was fighting a theater scene all day. At home, his partner asks a simple question. Did you remember to pay the bill? He hears it as accusation. His voice becomes sharp. His partner looks hurt. Daniel feels guilty, then angry, then guilty again. He goes to bed with noise in his head. Nothing huge happened, yet his life feels heavy. This is where the metaphors begin to save him. The next morning, he tries something small. Before his phone, he takes 3 breaths. He remembers tea, temperature, attention. He decides to brew his morning differently. He sits and watches his mind. Thoughts rise. Comparison, fear, planning. He notices them like clouds. He does not fight. He observes. He tells himself, I am the audience too. Life is theater. Thoughts are actors. I do not need to chase every line. He goes to work. A co-worker makes a dismissive comment. Daniel feels he tries in. He wants to respond sharply. Then he remembers chess. He asks, what move am I making if I speak now from anger? He imagines the next moves. Conflict, reputation damage, more stress. He pauses. He speaks calmly. He sets a boundary without insult. The moment passes. He feels a strange power. Not the power of winning, but the power of not being pulled. Later, he has a setback. A plan he was counting on changes. His mind wants to panic. Then he remembers grass. Bend. He tells himself this is a season. I can adapt. He lists one practical step. He takes it. The panic loosens. His parent calls with complaints. Daniel feels irritation. He feels trapped. Then he remembers the boat. Ocean. He cannot control the ocean, but he can steer. He speaks gently. He listens. He also sets limits. He says, I can talk for 10 minutes now. Then I need to rest. He does not feel guilty for steering. He feels responsible. Weeks pass. Daniel keeps practicing. Not perfectly. Some days he forgets. Some days he snaps. But he returns. Wine. Time. Maturity. He stops demanding instant transformation. He treats practice like fermentation. He keeps going. Then something surprising happens. The outside world starts responding differently. His partner feels safer. His co-workers trust him more. His energy changes. It is not mystical. It is the mirror. His inner state shifts, and the reflection shifts. One day he notices he is laughing again. Not forced laughter, but natural. He feels present. He feels the song of life. Some notes are sad. Some are bright. But he is no longer terrified of the low notes. He is no longer clinging to the high notes. He is learning to let the music move, and his destiny changes. Not because he won the lottery, not because all problems disappeared, but because he stopped sabotaging himself with constant inner friction. He stopped turning every moment into a threat. He stopped losing virtue through impatience. He stopped leaking energy into comparison. He started walking a road one step at a time. Now I want to slow down and make this extremely concrete for you. Because your life might not look like Daniel's life, but your mind might. Most people think destiny is a big mysterious thing. But destiny is often built from 3 daily patterns. The pattern of attention. What you focus on grows. If you focus on insult, you grow anger. If you focus on lack, you grow anxiety. If you focus on gratitude, you grow warmth. If you focus on learning, you grow strength. The pattern of speech. Words shape relationships. Words shape trust. Words shape your own mind. If your speech is harsh, your mind becomes harsh. If your speech is clean and honest, your mind becomes clean and honest. Right speech is not moral decoration. It is self-protection. The pattern of response. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is freedom. If you live without that space, you are a puppet. If you cultivate that space, you become a master of your own fate. So when we say you are cultivating destiny, We are saying you are cultivating attention, speech, and response. These are the seeds. Now I want to address something many people misunderstand. They think spiritual practice means being passive. They think compassion means letting people disrespect you. They think virtue means becoming a doormat. No. Real virtue has strength. Real compassion includes boundaries. Real wisdom can say no without hate. When you cultivate these, you stop creating enemies unnecessarily. You stop burning bridges because of pride. You stop losing opportunities because of impulsive words. You stop destroying your own peace because you want to be right. This is not about being nice. This is about being free. Now let me give you a series of everyday scenes and show you how each metaphor becomes a tool. You are stuck in traffic. Your mind starts cursing. Your body tenses. You arrive stressed. Theater reminds you it is a scene. Boat reminds you waves happen. Song reminds you low notes are part of the melody. You breathe. You loosen your shoulders. You use the time to practice attention. The traffic did not change, but your suffering did. Someone criticizes you. Theater reminds you it is a role in a scene. Mirror reminds you to check what is being reflected in you. Chess reminds you to choose a wise move. You listen. You extract what is useful. You release what is noise. You keep your dignity. You do not escalate. You feel jealous. You see someone doing better. Mirror reminds you the outer image is reflecting your inner insecurity. Tea reminds you to adjust temperature. Grass reminds you growth happens in season. Road reminds you to take your next step rather than stare at someone else's path. You return to your practice. You feel regret. You remember, then old mistake. Song reminds you emotions move. Wine reminds you maturity takes time. Road reminds you regret is a signpost, not a prison. You make one repair. You learn. You move. You feel unappreciated. You want someone to validate you. Theater reminds you not to become trapped in the role of the overlooked victim. Chess reminds you to act wisely, speak clearly, set boundaries, and also build your own competence. Mirror reminds you to cultivate inner worth. You stop begging for crumbs. You stand in your dignity. This is cultivation. Now, I want to bring in the heart of karma in a way that does not require superstition. Karma means your actions shape your mind. Your mind shapes your choices. Your choices shape your outcomes. Your outcomes shape your next actions. It is a loop. If you act with bitterness, your mind becomes bitter. Your choices become defensive. Your outcomes become isolating. Then you become more bitter. If you act with patience, your mind becomes stable. Your choices become wise. Your outcomes become smoother. Then you trust life more. That is why virtue is powerful. Virtue is a set of actions that protects the mind. When the mind is protected, life becomes clearer. Now let us talk about one of the biggest traps that ruins destiny. Comparison is the silent thief. You can have a decent life, but comparison makes it feel like failure. You can have love, but comparison makes it feel insufficient. You can have progress, but comparison makes it feel slow. Why is comparison so poisonous? Because it trains the mind to look outward constantly. It trains the mind to abandon the present. It trains the mind to chase a moving target. And when you chase a moving target, you never arrive. This is why so many traditions talk about returning inward. Not to become selfish, but to become sane. Return inward means you stop looking for your worth in someone else's life. You stop looking for peace in someone else's approval. You stop looking for safety in controlling the future. You return to breath. You return to the body. You return to the present. You return to right action. This is awakening. Now I want to offer a longer reflection that will help you feel this on a deeper level. Imagine your life as a garden. Every day you water something. You water resentment by replaying insults. You water fear by imagining worst-case futures. You water craving by scrolling and comparing. You water pride by needing to win every interaction. Or you water compassion by understanding others' pain without excusing harm. You water patience by pausing before reacting. You water clarity by reflecting honestly. You water generosity by giving wisely. You water discipline by keeping promises to yourself. After months, the garden grows. If you do not like what is growing, do not hate the garden. Change what you water. This is the simplest form of destiny cultivation. Now let us come to the part that many of you will feel in your chest. The feeling of being tired for no reason. Often that tiredness is not physical. It is spiritual in the sense that it is the exhaustion of constant inner conflict. You are constantly trying to control what cannot be controlled. You are constantly trying to get people to behave. You are constantly trying to get the past to change. You are constantly trying to get the future to guarantee you safety. That is impossible. So the mind stays tense. The metaphors are ways to relax the mind without becoming careless. Theater says do not take every scene as identity. Grass says bend with seasons. Chess says choose moves wisely. Boat says steer through waves. Wine says mature with time. Tea says adjust daily temperature. Mirror says look inward honestly. Song says allow emotions to move. Road says take the next step. If you truly live these, you become lighter. Not because life becomes easy, but because you stop adding extra suffering. Now, I want to offer something that sounds very direct. Some of you are trying to change your destiny by changing your environment. New job, new city, new partner, new friends, new routine. Sometimes environment change is necessary, but often you carry the same mind into the new place, so the suffering follows. If you take a bitter mind to a new job, you will find reasons to be bitter. If you take a fearful mind to a new city, you will find reasons to be fearful. If you take a restless mind into a new relationship, you will create restlessness there too. This is why the real answer is often inside. Not inside as in self-blame. Inside is in the place where your perception begins. When you change inside, even the same outside becomes different. Now let me bring this toward a closing reflection that feels personal, because I want you to feel that you are not alone in this. Every human mind struggles with these things. The difference is whether we remain asleep to the patterns or we become aware in practice. I remember a period when I was constantly in a hurry. Even on days with no urgent tasks, I felt rushed. I spoke quickly. I ate quickly. I walked quickly. I replied quickly. My mind was always 3 steps ahead, like chess played in panic rather than clarity. And because I was rushed, I became impatient with people. I became sharp in small conversations. I became easily irritated by minor delays. Then I felt guilty. Then I felt more stressed. The cycle continued. One day I noticed something simple. I was treating life like an emergency room, even when it was a living room. I was living like the ocean was always storming, even when the water was calm. So I tried a different approach. Tea, temperature, timing. I slowed down one thing each day. Just one. I ate one meal without rushing. I listened to one person without planning my response. I walked for 10 minutes without trying to get somewhere. I breathed before answering a message. At first it felt unnatural, but after a few weeks, my mind softened. My speech softened. My relationships softened. It felt like life was giving me more space. But life did not change. I changed. The mirror changed. That is why I believe this topic matters. Because it does not require perfect conditions. It requires practice. Now here is the part that often creates the strongest resonance. A lot of you have been trying so hard to be good. You try to be responsible. You try to be kind. You try to be useful. And yet you still feel tired. You still feel uneasy. So you start thinking maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I am cursed. Maybe I am unlucky. I want to say this clearly. The tiredness might simply be the result of carrying too many mental burdens. Burdens like needing to be approved. Burdens like needing to be right. Burdens like needing to control outcomes. Burdens like needing to compare. Those burdens are optional. They feel necessary because they are habits. But they are not necessary. You can put them down. And putting them down is not quitting life. It is finally living it. So let us end by returning to the core statement. You are not only living. You are cultivating your destiny. Every time you choose patience, you cultivate patience. Every time you choose compassion, you cultivate compassion. Every time you choose clean speech, you cultivate dignity. Every time you choose to pause, you cultivate freedom. Every time you choose to let go of comparison, you cultivate contentment. Every time you choose to take the next step, you cultivate a new road. This is how fate turns quietly. Now I want to invite you to reflect and share. Which of the 9 metaphors hit you the most today? Was it theater, grass, chess, boat, wine, tea, mirror, song, or road? And what is one moment from your own life where you can see how your inner response shaped your experience more than the event itself? Write it in the comments. Tell your story. When people share honestly, others feel less alone, and the whole community becomes a place of learning and healing. If you want more long-form talks like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment so more people can find this space. And if you want to support the channel even more, consider joining the membership so we can keep creating deeper content that helps you cultivate wisdom, compassion, and steady strength in everyday life.
There comes a time when you realize you want something that belongs just to you, something that brings comfort and keeps you connected to your inner world. Wall-crafted bracelet does exactly that. Quietly, softly, and consistently. If you felt drawn to any bracelet in this video, you'll find the purchase link in the video description and many more auctions in the channel's storefront. Because sometimes the smallest item can bring the biggest sense of peace.